Imagine you could connect everyone at once. A glimpse into the minds of millions, all at the press of a button. What do you think you might find? News? Sports? Cats? Maybe. But what happens when those minds become darker? When those twisted enter that connection and introduce themselves between the cracks of a vast universe? You might just walk right past them. But take a moment to dig a little deeper, and you might regret what you find. In February of 2004, on the Straight Dope message board, a user by the name Chef-L11 made the following thread. I recently visited www.seemierot.com, which is a live webcam inside a coffin that is taping a woman in her 40s who passed away from natural causes. Something isn't right here. They claim it's real, but there's very loose wording under the disclaimer. Also, according to the site, this woman was buried close to a year ago. From the knowledge I learned growing up, hair continues to grow after death. However, her eyebrows are perfectly manicured still. Someone please help clear this up. Is it a hoax? There seems like there's too many loose ends here. There has to be more to this story than this. Clicking the link unfortunately brings users to an Australian appliance blog. Luckily for us, however, we have the trusty Wayback Machine, which typically comes in handy for things like this. Give it a search and voila, this website has been well archived. Visiting the website, we are immediately brought to the main page, which seems to be the only page of interest. We have a very 2000s-esque logo, a description, flashy sponsors that advertise adult content, and finally the live feed of a corpse that appears to be a woman. However, her head is very miscolored with the bright red hue. The description says the following. Welcome to SeeMeRot.com. This site is dedicated to all who have gone before us. 2 months ago, we attached the world's first live coffin cam to the interior of our subject's casket. This was done after friends and family had seen the deceased for the last time. We then traveled over 2,000 miles with the casket to the family's chosen burial place. Having arrived at the graveyard, a small ceremony was held, after which the final preparations were made to our transmitting hardware and lighting units. All went according to plan at first, and the casket was lowered just under lunchtime, April 15th, 2003. Cam tests were carried out at the site, and the grave was sealed. We then set off back to our office in the heart of Seattle. Should you wish to discuss plans for your own coffin cam for family and friends, please contact us for pricing details. If we search around, we can find more information about the woman. The website informs us that she was 41, died of natural causes, and her family wishes her identity remain a secret. Besides for this, and a few other pages regarding copyright legal issues, there isn't much else that the website offers. It seems to merely just be a platform for live streaming a woman in a coffin. A woman who looks like this. Many people agreed, myself included, that this did not look like a year-old corpse of a dead body. It would have been withered way more than this, and just for the mere fact that users can still see the live stream from an archive proves that it can't be legitimate. Instead, it was a GIF that continuously replayed, giving the illusion that the moving image was a live stream corpse. While such an interesting concept for a website being a complete hoax is slightly disappointing, the true intent behind the website is a little weird, albeit not as disturbing as we initially thought. See Me Rot is filled with advertisements for adult film sites. On top of this, if we take a look at the descriptions, we can read that there was once a foot cam. However, it was later removed due to poor quality. We can go further back to the first archive of the website and see that this was in fact a thing. Looking at this article titled Decomposition Cam, we can see an analysis of everything previously stated. However, it also adds that the website was registered under an address that links to an adult entertainment chain. If we jump further in time, we can actually see different ads on the website, ads I cannot show as they're a little more graphic than the previous ones. This all just seems to be one big ad campaign for an adult entertainment company, which makes the foot cam a little more understandable. They targeted a fetish in hopes it would drive customers to this store. However, this gets a little more unnerving when you remember they removed the foot cam, and only left a more detailed photo of a supposed dead body, likely targeting those interested in that type of fetish. Joseph Edward Duncan was a man who was sentenced to 20 years in prison for child molestation and released in 1994, just in time for the internet boom. He would quickly become very tech savvy and in 2004 started a blog titled The Fifth Nail. This name refers to the tale that there were 5 nails used to stake Jesus Christ to the cross. The 5th nail, meant for his heart, was taken away and hidden in an attempt to remove Christ from immediate death. Some view this as an act of evil, prolonging Christ's suffering, while others view this as an act of hope, attempting to save Christ in the event he survived the crucifixion. This concept of the 5th nail was used in reflection to Joseph Duncan, as his blog was used to explain his side of the story and why all pedophiles shouldn't be labeled as evil. In the early days, there was no traffic to the 5th nail. Joseph was merely talking to himself, to which he quickly addressed by stating, "I realize now who this blog is really for. It is for me." That explains why I so doggedly insist on painstakingly making entry after entry, even though I know no one ever is going to read it. He used this blog as a sort of self-therapy, where it seemed as if he was trying to convince himself he was still a good person. It seems that between the months of January to June of 2004, each blog post related to either dreams, public classes he was taking, skiing, and his opinions of sex offender mistreatment. However, on July 9th of 2004, Joseph would post a thread titled, "Here we go again." I got a call today from an investigator in a city about an hour's drive away from here. Apparently, I'm a suspect for some undefined incident that occurred last Sunday. He would not tell me anything about what happened, though he did not seem too concerned, except to say it was a felony and all felonies are serious. For almost the next year, as the investigation commenced, Joseph would spiral out of control. His posts began to turn more erratic, claiming he's a victim of sexual abuse himself and becoming obsessed with convicting abusive mothers. This would continue until April of 2005, where he appeared in court for the molestation of 2 boys in Becker County, Minnesota, and given bail set at $15,000. After this, he would write, "So, I've been accused of molesting a little boy. Those close to me know I didn't do it, of course. How could I? I'm not even a pedophile. Well, I'm not a psychopath either. I feel the full force and pain of everyone I have ever hurt. But that doesn't stop me from doing what I need to do. Ultimately, my feelings don't matter. I learned that in prison. I have to carry out my orders, or a lot worse than just me dying could happen." After this, there would be only 2 more blog posts, both of which Joseph referenced demons taking over his mental state, even coining his alter ego as the Boogeyman. His final words on this blog read, "I hope to complete this journal before I die, soon, or turn myself in. I still might do that. I think it's the right thing, but of course, I'm not sure. Speak of being sure, I wish I could be sure about my thoughts. But right now, the only thing I'm sure about is that I'm sure about nothing. It's not a good position to be in considering my circumstances, being a felony fugitive and all."
Breaking news out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho tonight. An Amber Alert. An 8-year-old and a 9-year-old missing. Their entire family wiped out.
Joseph Edward Duncan III is charged with 2 counts of kidnapping. 8-year-old Shasta Groney is recovering tonight from a 7-week ordeal.
Only one day after this last post, Joseph broke into a family home and killed 3 people, as well as kidnapping 2 children. Weeks later, Joseph and only one of the children was spotted at Denny's, where the police were informed and arrested Joseph. The remains of the missing child were found in the following days. In the years that followed, Joseph would coordinate with an accomplice outside prison to start another blog, also titled The Fifth Nail. This blog is referred to as a reflection of his past, as well as an outlet to sell a fake story. He claims that he was on his way to turn himself in before he was captured, while the surviving child claims she just barely survived strangulation and was on their way to visit Joseph's mother. Regardless of this, however, no further story can be expanded upon, as Joseph died on March 28th of 2021 from a brain tumor after being in prison for almost 20 years. On an Ask Reddit thread, a post was removed by a moderator under the question, What do you regret knowing? The answer implied that there was someone among the community who earned a reputation that was rather unpleasant. The phrase, "the person we all know lives among us," is very ominous and even more broad. This tells us nothing, but certainly piques an interest on what this might mean. The user who noticed this was also very curious and began to do some investigating on their own of who this person might be. It wasn't long before she got a reply and found an answer. A user by the name LadyIris. I'll be blunt. LadyIris is a clear psychopath who often lurked amongst the Ask Reddit subreddit. I would say she's a wolf in sheep's clothing, however she's very transparent. Just a small subset of her many deranged questions consist of: how does it feel to choke someone until they can't breathe? What is the worst form of torture someone could inflict on you personally? And where is the best place to stab someone if you don't want them to die of blood loss? These go on and on and on. However, the source to all these questions can usually be explained by one, which she has asked numerous times. How do you deal with the intense urge to commit murder? LadyIris is a woman with a fetish for torture and murder. She has hundreds of posts from her profile, with about 80% being related to her murder fantasy. A very odd note is the other 20% is primarily on the Name Nerd subreddit, where LadyIris will often offer advice on names for newborn children. I mention this as her entire account could easily be summed up as a troll. However, offering other interests besides murder makes the account more personal and unique. In my honest opinion, LadyIris is absolutely legit. Some other disturbing responses are her saying death by hammers was a turn on, and in regards to whether she would eat limbs of children, she replies absolutely, if someone does the cooking for me. However, the extent of these remain as shock value. The internet is filled with people who love to cause controversy. However, what I truly find the most disturbing is when she references her past experiments. Under the question, what is it like to kill someone for pleasure? LadyIris responds with, it feels pleasurable, obviously. It is a huge adrenaline rush and brings about a thrilling sense of power and control over the victim. You are actively choosing to end their life, and they're completely at your mercy. Also, watching them writhe in pain with each slice of the blade can be almost erotic. I haven't killed a human yet, but I have killed a hamster and a stray cat to experiment. It was a similar rush, but I think a human will be far more exciting and intense. There's a lot more of a challenge in killing a person and getting away with it. In many cases, murdering animals is a typical first sign for serial killers. The documentary, Don't F with Cats, is a very good example of this, as it shows a similar scenario of an internet psychopath turned killer. LadyIris is a seemingly average everyday person, hiding an evil urge with every connection she makes.